Hello, and thank you for tuning in for another video. A friend recently asked me to explain a little bit more about what exactly yoga therapy was and who may benefit from engaging yoga therapy or a yoga therapist, whether that be in a group setting or whether that be one-on-one. So I'd like to explain three main ways that I look at yoga therapy. The number one way is to help people know themselves. So this is useful for us because until we have knowledge, we have no power to make change. So knowing ourselves gives us the power to heal ourselves and grow ourselves, which are the other two aspects of yoga therapy. So in a yoga therapy session, the yoga therapist honors the whole person, the whole being. It's up to you what all shows up in a session, but what is welcomed in a session is your physical experience, your emotional experience, your psychological experience, and your spiritual experience. And again, what we work with in a session is what you bring to a session. So we always work to meet you where you are, never imposing an agenda or an ideal outcome. So that's number one. A yoga therapist helps you to know yourself better. Number two is heal yourself. So often is the way as we become more intimate with our own experiences and our own patterns of behavior or experience, which could be physical or emotional, psychological or spiritual. As we become more intimate and aware, suddenly we can make choices with that information. And often what comes up and what brings people to a yoga therapy session or any form of healing work is the reality that we are suffering in some shape or form. So what I find yoga therapy is really great for is chronic conditions. Although there is a place, I'm sure, for yoga therapy in acute situations or acute trauma, I personally find that my work benefits most those who are struggling with chronic, ongoing, persistent issues. And just to remember again, a chronic, ongoing condition can be like a mental, psychological, or emotional experience, which we might call depression. And of course, in a yoga therapy session, we acknowledge that that also connects to our physical experience. So depression being an example, often we feel a lot of exhaustion. There can be a loss of appetite or an increased appetite. The founder of the Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy method, which is one of the methods I'm trained in, refers to what's happening in your body is happening in your life. So yoga therapy work always really grounds strongly in our felt sense, body-based experience to uncover what's happening in our lives, in our hearts, and in our minds. So that's one, or a little bit of a way to explain yoga therapy and who may benefit from it. And that's really from a healing perspective. So the last perspective I would like to share is called grow yourself. So that definitely in the healing model of yoga therapy, we do move from knowing yourself to healing yourself to growing yourself. But people who can also engage yoga therapy who do not feel or find that they are necessarily suffering in life. Instead, they're choosing to engage a yoga therapist because they are wanting to flourish more or grow their best potential, find their inner genius. And yoga therapy, in my own personal experience and in watching other people engage this type of work, it is incredibly uplifting and inspiring space for people to discover who they are and who they are becoming at the same time, and realizing their choices along the way in that process. So sometimes we use the language, or there's a language out there called your heart's longing or your heart's desire, or what you're really passionate about, or what you're called to do, your purpose in this life or at this time in your life. We have many different purposes that show up at different times depending on our circumstances. So yoga therapy is also incredibly powerful for flourishing work, and that falls under the umbrella of human genius and personal development. So in this way, we use felt sense experience and emotional and psychological awareness and soul awareness. Again, always meeting you where you're at. So you may be a very emotional person and don't tap into what some might call a spiritual experience. For some, a spiritual experience might be more body-based and nature-based, and they don't use terms like soul. And none of that has to be in session work with a yoga therapist, because it's all about you, the work, and not necessarily any philosophical beliefs on my behalf. So, yoga therapy, know yourself, heal yourself, grow yourself. That's a bit about what this work is about. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.